Hello everyone. So friend, in this section of course, we will be seeing the demonstration of how we can perform a basic stubbing in Mockito. We'll see what's the advantage of it. So here, in our main Java folder, I will be creating a package. We'll provide a package as stubbing. And friends, in our previous lecture we saw the annotation support where we used the book class, book repository and book service, which was our class under test. So I'll simply copy these three stuff and we'll reuse the code in stubbing. So friend, let's say in our book service we have written one method which we want to test. Let's say we give name to it as public. We provide the return type as int. And let's say the name of the method is calculate total cost. So friend, in this method what we are doing is, let's say we are given a list of book IDs. So what we'll do here is that we are given a list of book IDs. We will go to the book repository. We'll get all the books associated with this book IDs. After we get the list of books, we will iterate over each book one by one. We'll get the price of the book and we'll simply do the sum of it, and finally we'll return the total cost of the books. We'll provide a for loop. We'll iterate over book IDs one by one, and here we will call book repository dot find book by book ID. So here book repository in our real project will go to database and bring the book by book ID. But here, in order to test calculate total cost method, we will simply stub this stuff and will return a pre-configured response. So this will return us the book from the repository. So friend, as we want to get the total cost of the books, here what we'll do, we'll simply create an integer variable total. We'll initialize it with 0. And as soon as we have performed the fetching of the book, what we'll do, we'll simply do total plus book.getPrice. And after iterating over each and every book and getting its price and adding it to total, at last we'll simply return total. So friends, we want to test this method calculate total cost, and as find book by book ID is not present, so we'll add this method into the book repository interface. So friends, now let's go to our test folder. Here I will simply create the package. We'll give it a name as stubbing. And here I will create the test class. Let's say I give book service test, because here book service is our class under test. And also friends, we'll use Mockito annotations. So what we'll do, we'll simply extend it with Mockito extension so that we can use the annotations in this test class. So friend, as we have book service as class under test, we'll simply call inject mocks and we'll tell Mockito that book service is our class under test using @injectmocks annotation. And as book service has one external dependency, book repository, we will inject it using @mock. So here we'll create our test method. Let's say we give the name of the test as test. Test calculate total cost of books. So friends, here one important thing to note is when we are testing book service calculate total cost method, we have to pass the list of book IDs. When the execution point will reach here, it will see that book repository find book by book ID method is getting called. So friends, here you can see that we are passing here a book ID. So when we'll do stubbing of book repository dot find book by book ID and we'll pass the book ID, what Mockito will do is Mockito will use the equals method while matching these arguments. So whatever the arguments we have passed to our calculate total cost method and whatever we have provided stub in book service test class, which we will be seeing in some time, it should match. So if we haven't provided stubbing, then the default value will be returned by the Mockito. So here first we'll create the list of book IDs because we need to pass it to calculate total cost method. So book IDs, let's say we add a string as 1, 2, 3, 4 as book ID 1 and 1, 2, 3, 5. So let's say we want to calculate total cost of these two books. So we'll call book service dot calculate total cost and we'll pass book IDs. And friend, it will return us the total cost. So this would be our actual cost. So here, when we'll run this test case, this method will be called with the book IDs which we have created here. So the execution point when it will reach here, it will see that we are calling book repository dot find book by book ID and we are passing a single book ID. But as we know that book repository currently is only interface and its implementation is yet to be implemented. So this is the beauty of stubbing, that we don't have actual implementation of our external dependency, but still we can test our book service. So what we can do is we can tell Mockito what to do when this method is called with a specific book ID. So here we can perform stubbing using when and then return. So in when we simply provide book repository dot find book by book ID and let's say we provide 1, 2, 3, 4 because 1, 2, 3, 4 will be our first book ID. So here we'll import when from awk.mockito. So it's a static method. So this when is used in combination with then return. And here if you see the return type of find book by book ID, it's actually a book. So here when we'll do then return, so here it expects a book. Because as soon as we have passed a method in Mockito.when, when we'll call then return, it knows that what find book by book ID will return. So then return asks us that what you want to return. So let's say we want to return a book. So what we need to do here is, if we go to our annotation support class, here we have created two books. Let's say I simply copy this and let's say I paste it here. So friends, here we have created two books. Now why we have created these two books is that we don't want to go to database using book repository, because currently there is no implementation of book repository. So when we do stubbing, we need to tell Mockito that when we are calling find book by book ID method by passing in a book ID, then return a specific book to us, because our actual testing is to calculate the total cost, because it is of very less important that what book is written by this book repository find book by book ID method, because whatever we pass here, we need to test this stuff, that whatever the price is it is getting out from this book, when we are performing actual total, it should match to our expectation. So here we are telling Mockito that as we have mocked this dependency, when this method will be called with 1234 as book ID, then return book 1. So friend, here you can see that in our test case we are telling Mockito that when book repository dot find book by book ID is called, and we are passing in an argument here as 1234. So Mockito will keep a record of it, and when the actual method will be called here, so it will check that okay, book repository find book by book ID method is getting called with a specific book ID. So it will actually use the equals method here to compare this book ID with this book ID, and if it matches, then it will simply return book 1 for us. So friend, here you can see that inside this for loop we are passing in two book IDs. So book repository will be called twice. So we need to tell Mockito that when book repository dot find book by book ID method is called with book ID as 1235, then return book 2. So this is the book 2 having book ID as 1235. So friends, here you can see the price of two books is 500 and 400, and when we'll do the sum of it, we get 900. So here if I provide assert equals, and let's say our expected value should be 900 and the actual value is actual cost, we'll import assert equals. So friends, if I run the test case, so friends, here you can see the test case got executed successfully, and Mockito did return book 1 and book 2 here when it found that book ID is 1234 and 1235. Because we told Mockito what to do when these specific methods are called with these arguments. So Mockito used the equals method to match 1234 1235 when it actually executed our method in class under test. So friend, in this lecture we saw the first way to perform the stubbing in Mockito. In our next lecture we'll see another way to do the stubbing. So friends, I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.